Hare Krishna. Let me read where is it? Here it is. Question. I won't mention the name of the person, it's very honest, but I think it's not necessary, not suitable to mention the name. But he says, I've been in ISKCON for 3 years. The initial years were joyful and exuberant, but now the tendency to watch porn has come back to haunt. Earlier, I used to watch these unmentionable things for hours on the internet. Coincidentally, I have some work related to internet, and I end up getting sidetracked on the net due to my flickering mind. This is my disease. Please cure it. I want to know how to get rid of it and remember Krishna always. Well, that's the first consideration. Do you really want to get rid of it? If someone really wants to get rid of it, then they can. If they're just saying it, then they won't. And they can't. Nowadays, pornography, which in days of yore was both a very dirty thing and a very rare thing to get a hold of, is really easily accessible on the internet. Like other habits, if it gets too ingrained, well, it's bad in any case, but when it gets ingrained, it becomes a sickness. Like gambling. Gambling is also said to be a sickness, just like intoxicant, just like taking drugs. People have difficulty kicking that habit. So, and the longer you do something, the more difficult the habit becomes to kick. So if this person really wants to kick that habit, you really have to do the right things. The first right thing is that your spiritual practices really have to be strong. Unless one has sufficient spiritual strength, he won't be able to counteract the influence of the members of the opposite sex. This is what the material world is all about. So it's not an easy thing. And it's already not an easy thing when we first come and have a good first start at Krishna consciousness, but when we give in to our mind and senses, when we give in to that precedent, then you're in trouble. And to overcome that, a person really has to be sincere, really has to be determined. Probably the most important thing is to have a good devotee association, strong association of devotees who don't care for these things, who have no interest in members of the opposite sex and not bewildered by their association. And that type of sangha, that type of association will give the inspiration and the strength, which also comes by chanting Hare Krishna nicely, regularly reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And how much to do that, how strong? Enough that you have the strength to withstand the temptation. And then Shankaracharya said, Nari stana bharam nabi dvesham drishtama mogavisham, which is contemplate what it is that you're so attached to, what this so-called pornography is, has such a great draw for you. Consider manasya vichinchara brahmaram in your mind that this is mamsa, this is flesh and marrow and bones and blood, and just covered in a certain way. Let me turn off this music. Material energy, Maya Devi, that's exactly her expertise, how to cover our perception of reality, this material body, which is really a horrible thing. You can just as easily go on internet. I was going to say, go to an operating theater and see them do open heart surgery or something. You can probably watch that on the internet. Why don't you look at that a little? And it'll give you another perspective of the body. You're getting enchanted by what's going on outside. See what's going on inside. See if you have the stomach for that. And that gives us at least an intellectual grasp of what it is that we're getting tricked into, just like this material world. We're suffering, we're suffering, we're suffering, but we're living as if we're going to enjoy life, although everyone's dying, 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 but we're living as if we're going to live forever. It's just Maya. This is the material energy's expertise to package something that is actually really horrible into something that appears very, very alluring. And we foolish people keep going after it, going after it, going after it. So what is this pornography? The same thing over and over and over again. Just sex life, just the urinal tracts of men and women, or men and man, of course then it's not the urinal, but anyway, all of these organs, dirty parts of the body, and how they interact just for some kind of momentary thrill, and then once again one suffers a demoniac behavior, a demoniac type of lifestyle that's really only attractive to those people who really have such base qualities and characteristics. Manasya vichintaya baram baram. Consider it really well. Think about it. Really examine what's inside of this body. Get proper spiritual enlightenment and spiritual health. Have strict practices. If someone wants to overcome this habit, they'll overcome it. If someone wants to overcome drug addiction, they'll overcome it. If someone wants to overcome any kind of, well, our addiction to sense gratification and our attachment to this material world, will overcome it. But it will require hard work, and you have to know how to say no, not give in to the mind. There's no way of getting around it. We want to make spiritual advancement. We have to learn how to say no to the mind. And from that, we will become empowered. Every time you do it, you feel better. Every time you give in, you feel worse. And it becomes difficult. It's not just purifying the mind of the impressions that are there, and those impressions are difficult to get rid of, but it's also having given momentum to the precedent of the mind that now I can just enjoy like this. Much more difficult to kick the habit. The longer you play around, the more difficult it becomes. So please stay away from pornography, stay away from illicit sex. If you engage in illicit sex, if you watch illicit sex, that's one of the reasons why I'm so down on television, because it's inevitable. You can't get away from it. It will stay in your mind, it will make an image, and it will be a long time before you can purify that. It's one thing to get on the pornography on the internet. The other thing is to get in pornography in your mind. And when you put it from the internet into your mind, you can switch off the computer easily, but you're not going to be able to switch off your mind so easily. And it's going to come out in dreams, it's going to come out in the waking state, it's going to come out in relationship to other people. It will take a lot to purify. What takes 2 minutes to put into your mind may take 2 years or lifetimes to get out of your mind. Cheto Darpana Marjana. So we should remember that. This is the experiences we have in the world. You can do something, you can blow up a house in a moment. It take you a long time to build it. You can take life in a second, but it takes a long time for life to manifest. so many things can be ruined very, very quickly. It takes a lot more to counteract it and to build it up in a positive way. So this is a video. Tomorrow you'll see more. We're working on this being the way of doing the podcasts. I hope it's more enthusing to the devotees. And tomorrow's Rath Yatra. We'll try and take some videos of that and put those on. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.